Drukgyalpo Jigme Wangchuck. In 1905, Jigme Wangchuck was born to Ajit Sintrul Hamo, who was also known as Lemo, and King Ugin Wangchuck. He began his formal education with several children at Wangdicholing Palace. In 1919, Jigme Wangchuck was only 14 when he got the post of Trongsa Donier. In 1922, when his mother passed away, the full responsibility of overseeing the funeral rites fell on the shoulder of Jigme Wangchuck. After successfully completing the funeral event, the following year he was appointed as the Trongsa Penlop. Jigme Wangchuck married Ajipinsu Chodin that brought the three lineages of Turtenpema Lingpa in the royal family of Bhutan together. The three lineages were Tungkar Choje, Tamjing Choje, and Chumi Jelngo. On March 14th of 1927, Jigme Wangchuck was crowned as the second Drukgyalpo of Bhutan. In this coronation, the British government was represented by the official delegations led by F.M. Bailey, the political of Sikkim at that period. The insignia of Companion of the Indian Empire was offered by British government to the king. After the coronation ceremonies, he granted large quantities of gold for reimbursing all the sacred images in the Punakha Zone and announced the construction of an entire new sertok for the zone itself. He contributed Kanjur and Tenjur books and mask dance costume to the zone. He distributed food, clothes, livestock and money to the public in act of piety in memory of his father and for the well-being of the kingdom. After that, His Majesty returned to Bumthang and completed his father's cremation rites. His Majesty focused more on fulfilling his father's last wishes, that was to create just and fair society. His Majesty was assisted by 4 office bearers of the ministerial rank constituting Nangil Hingiji Central Cabinet, consisting of Shung Kalien, Government Minister, Shung Donier, Government Guest Master, Shung Zimpen or Gongzim, Government Chamberlain, Thimpu Punap, Combined Office of Zongpen of Thimpu and Punakha. Chiminamgil abolished Dungpa's post, and thus several districts and gyeoks came under direct central rule. At that period of time, the administrative system of our country was very compact. So to slim it down, he came up with the measures of combining some posts. The Zongpins collected heavy taxes for the maintenance of zones and their own wants. It was found that at the district and gyeok levels, officials maintained large numbers of subordinate officers and retainers under them. The office of Trongsa Penlop continued to be retained by the king, and the Daga Penlop was much reduced in status. Drukgyalpo Jigme Wangchuck soon succeeded in establishing total supremacy of the monarch throughout the kingdom. In 1940s, he issued kashos directly to the people, whereby the people were required to submit their reports directly to the king about the taxes, without routing through the district officials. His Majesty held consultation with the knowledgeable persons whom he summoned for the purpose from villages in the district. What emerged was a complicated pattern of taxation that was both unproductive to the government and heavy and uneven on the people. His Majesty then set a motion in a massive program whereby these unproductive taxes were greatly reduced or abolished. For an example, there was a system of cloth tax in the eastern part of Bhutan where people were obliged to weave clothes for the zone. All such types of taxes were done away with. In the matter of legal process, His Majesty did away with all the harsher forms of punishments of criminals. Traditionally, convict murderers were thrown into rivers tied to the bodies of their victims. Imposition of fines for offense were such that felons became reduced to absolute poverty without hope of recovery. Runaway slaves and prisoners had their Achilles tendon cut, whereby they were crippled for life. The central monk body and the regional rabde were brought closer within the central administrative machinery. The king took into his own power to appoint Jekhenpos and the abbots of the rabdes. Although the four lopins were continued to be appointed by the central monk body, their appointments were made subjected to royal endorsement. As did his father before, Drukgyalpo Jigme Wangchuck continued to encourage and support Bhutanese monks and scholars going to the great monasteries of Tibet for higher studies. Many of them returned as an outstanding scholars who later made notable contributions to the preservation of Bhutan's religion and cultural heritage. Foremost among these people were Lamnado and Lopin Pema Tsewang among many others. Lamnado became a renowned teacher and a writer who initiated the development of Dzongkha literature. High Tibetan lamas and scholars continued to be invited to teach and practice in Bhutan. Besides monks, the king also encouraged and sponsored laymen to study traditional medicine and astrology in the most reputed institute of Tibet. Since the early years of his reign, the king was keenly interested to introduce some degrees of modern development. His Majesty proposed improvement of communications and forest conservation besides health and education services. Bhutan, however, did not have the financial resources to implement His Majesty's plans. Besides the annual British subsidy, the kingdom had no other source of external finance. While every visiting British political officer was sympathetic to Bhutan's need of financial assistance to support the king's plan, could offer little help. They made repeated proposals to their government strongly recommending financial assistance to Bhutan, but the British government remained reluctant to support Bhutan financially. The king was able to make only tentative beginning towards modern development during his reign. In terms of modern education, the Drukgyalpo expanded on the modest beginning made by his father. He continued to send increasing numbers of Bhutanese students to Kalimpong, where the Gongzim Sonamtop Gitoji, son of Gongzim Ugendoji, was responsible for their care and education. Students who had completed their schoolings were selected for further studies or training in the other parts of India. The two schools in Ha and Wangdicholing were improved and upgraded. Later in 1940s, several new primary schools came to be established within the country. Another area of development that His Majesty brought was in terms of public health service. The British political officer, along with the medical doctors, they visited our country and discovered many common diseases that were epidemic among the Bhutanese. So the British officers appealed to their government for assistance in form of simple medicines and drugs, but again to no avail. So His Majesty made an effort in combating such epidemics with his own limited private resources. Although the British were not able to help Bhutan Financially and in terms of public health services, the British government proved more forthcoming with the assistance, training, and supply of simple arms. 15 young men recruited and selected for training with the British Army at Shillong returned to form a core of Bhutan's first stand-in army. Some of them later rose to higher ranks and helped establish the Royal Bhutan Army, the Royal Bodyguard, and the Royal Bhutan Police during the reign of the third Drukgyalpo. The second Drukgyalpo's armory of 500 modern rifles increased to more than 2,000 with the British help. Since the founding of Bhutan as a nation-state by Zhabdrung Namgyel in the 17th century, foreign policy was limited to maintaining the policy of isolation. While the world was in turmoil through much of his reign, Drukgyalpo Jigme Wangchuck maintained the old age policy and stirred his kingdom unscratched through the Great Depression of 1930 and the Second World War that started in 1939 to 1945, independence movement in India in 1947, and the rising Chinese power to the north. A.J. Hopkins, who was the last British political officer to visit Bhutan, came to present the Drukgyalpo with the insignia of the Knight Commander of the Indian Empire in 1947. King Jigme Wangchuck made only two visits to India during his entire reign. As the independence of India grew nearer, there was great anxiety in Bhutan as to the plans that the new independent India might adopt towards Bhutan. But according to British, Bhutan was never a part of British Empire. In 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru, then the Prime Minister of India, visited Bhutan, and the following year the Government of India invited Bhutan to attend the Asian Relations Conference in New Delhi. Bhutan and India signed India-Bhutan Treaty at Darjeeling on August 8 of 1949, replacing the Treaty of Punakha. A few terms of the treaty were: the Republic India would not interfere in the internal affairs of Bhutan, but Bhutan would be guided by the Indian advice in the conduct of its foreign activities or relationships. 32 square kilometers of territory in Dewathang was returned to Bhutan. This treaty laid a strong foundation of close India-Bhutan relation in the future decades.